members of the SANDF will be deployed across the country for several weeks, but there's still some kind of apprehension about this leading to perhaps human rights violations. The army is tasked with quelling the unrest, but there have also been reports that some members are searching residents' homes, all in the name of protecting communities. We're asking, is this allowed, or can it possibly be viewed as an infringement of people's rights? Let's unpack this with you, with the CEO of the Human Rights Commission, Tseliso Thipanyane, who joins us now via our video link. Ndate Thipanyane, great to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I can't help but notice that, some of these, call it search and siege operations, take place in very specific communities mostly viewed as housing vulnerable people. How high up your list of concerns is something like that?
Well, it will always be a concern in the sense that, the Constitution does not allow people to be searched without proper procedures. So Section 14, the right to privacy, does protect this. However, the Constitution also allows for this right to be limited in terms of Section 36. So the Criminal Procedure Act, for example, does allow for this right to be limited. People can be searched and the property can be seized under certain circumstances. The same thing also applies with the Human Rights Commission Act. Our Act also allows us, under certain circumstances, to search and seize certain articles in pursuit of our mandate to investigate the violation of human rights. So the limitation of this right has to be done very carefully. It should not be abused. We still have to respect the right of the dignity of the people who are being searched and the privacy as well. But sometimes, of course, this right does get abused. So it's important that both the police and the army are very mindful of this right, fundamental human right.
So what ought then be the response from residents who find themselves on the receiving end of this type of behavior, especially in a context where we know pushing back against members of the SANDF could cost you your life? We've seen that happen to Collins Khoza in Alex.
Well, they should then lodge complaints where these rights have been abused to us or to the police themselves, and action should be taken, accordingly by the authorities. But it's also important that really the police and the army are trained to respect the rights in the Constitution, and therefore when they conduct a very important activity of fighting crime, we should not fight crime by violating human rights and causing crimes ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, have you received any complaints yet about the SANDF, at least given their latest deployment?
Well, there were complaints, at the beginning of the lockdown. So we are keeping an eye at this point in time, but we are aware of a number of concerns in the media, and of course also some of the conducts which we see. So it is really important that a message is sent across to everybody that Section 14 does not allow abuse of people in terms of search and seizure.
Yeah. The other complex situation that's emerged in some communities across the country is this matter of civilians being armed and patrolling some of their communities, all of this in the name of their own safety. But what we've seen take place as perhaps an undesired effect is that some communities have found themselves being racially profiled by these armed civilians. I mean, what are some of the human rights violations that come up for you in that context? And again, what can be done by those who are victims of this?
Yeah. Again, it is a concern. People have the right to defend themselves and their property, but in doing so, they should also not violate the rights of other people, the right of movement, association, the right to equality, and so forth. So again, we have been noting those issues, and action should be taken against those people who are doing this. Everybody has a right to defend themselves. But again, it also highlights the failures, I think, of the state to provide, to uphold law and order, which then forces some people, to take matters into their hands. But, if you do so with outside the law, then you're breaking many rights. You might even be committing an assault or also a racist practice, which is then also a challenge in many ways.
Yeah, I wonder how this period, the week gone by, has complicated matters for you, because many people have described this as a melting point of many contradictory moments in our country. Are you finding that the Human Rights Commission is also struggling to try pinpoint moments where there's an outward violation of other people's rights because, for instance, of the unrest, or moments where, you know, it's understandable that some people may even respond to violence with violence?
That is the unfortunate part. You know, these incidents have really taken us to the brink. And therefore, you know, people's properties, people's home have been violated, and people do have to defend themselves. But again, you know, it's becoming a gray area, and understandably so. But I think it's important that, you know, we do hold the line. But I also want to say, you know, that we should also bear in mind that out of the 9 provinces, the majority of our people and majority of provinces did hold the line. And that's why this thing has not spread throughout the country. And I think we should also praise our people that there was, you know, adequate measures by South Africans to say, no, we will not allow our constitution to be undermined, we will not allow our laws to be undermined by anybody.
Tseliso Thipanyane, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. He's the CEO of the South African Human Rights Commission. I appreciate your time.